Hogan just said that because certain things were cheaper under Trump, it's a failure of Biden. Will Hogan acknowledge, therefore, that because those very same goods were cheaper under Obama, Trump also did something wrong?
Well, I'm sure they were cheaper under Grover Cleveland too. That's not the
That's
point.
exactly
The point
the
is
point.
the
That's
point is where
exactly
are
the
we
point. You're
now?
just making
Can
a
we get the inflation back to where we were? And the answer is yes, with the
Are you
right
calling
policy.
for a deflationary spiral? I mean, here's the thing I don't understand, Megyn, and I'm not asking this rhetorically. I actually want to understand this as someone with a background in economics. If inflation goes below zero, you create a deflationary spiral where people
Even Trump said
expect
that.
things to be cheaper in the future, and so they wait to buy anything, which hurts the economy.
In this video, David Pakman humbles Megyn Kelly and Trump staffer Hogan Gidley in a 2v1 debate. Megyn Kelly and Hogan Gidley, a diehard Trump defender, team up to push the usual conservative spin on inflation, blaming Joe Biden while completely ignoring the economic setup under Donald Trump and other real-world factors. But David Pakman just completely exposes both of their flawed arguments, calling out how conservatives conveniently pretend inflation doesn't exist under Trump, but suddenly act like it's the worst crisis ever under Biden. And when he presses them on actual economic facts, Gidley fumbles hard, and even Kelly struggles to hold the debate together. It's a complete dismantling of right-wing talking points, and by the end, you can clearly tell who understands the issue well and who's just there to push a narrative. So make sure to watch till the end to see how David Pakman humbles Megyn Kelly and Trump staffer Hogan Gidley in this 2v1 debate.
This is
Wait,
why
let me
in
just
the
say, let
world
me
of
just add to that.
economics,
So even Trump said this on the stump just last week. He said we were around 1.4%, which is even better than zero for the exact reasons you just cited. Keep going.
2 to 3 is typically what you want. That's where economic growth comes from. So the thing I struggle with, and I really do want to understand it, because for me, people who know me know I don't play political games with gas prices. I don't play political games with inflation. I really, my view on this is just from economics. The goal from which traditional economics, not Marxist left-wing stuff, traditional economics says you want around 3% inflation, because that is an incentive to buy now rather than later, and it's where wage growth and economic growth comes from. Hogan seems to, I guess, want deflation, which doesn't seem to be good. So just maybe someone who knows more can explain it to me.
No, I guess that's not happening now. Okay, let's go.
Let's
go back to immigration. Oh, go ahead, Hogan,
Okay.
if you want to.
So here's my view on immigration, and I already laid out part of it. I believe that without immigrants, the country collapses, and I think it's abundantly clear. If anything, as far as legal immigration, we probably need to increase it significantly to remain globally competitive, especially as birth rates are starting to decline. Big picture, I think that that's a big issue here. In addition to this, when it comes to the sort of crime narrative, we know from very good studies, both state and federal, both documented and undocumented immigrants commit crime at lower rates than natural-born citizens. Now, I know Trump
even
loves
one
the
is too
lurid
many. Let me just
tales.
take you on that. Well, even one is too many. Why do I have to deal with these illegal immigrants committing felonies against my friends or family when they shouldn't even be here? American-born, that's one thing. I got to deal with Americans. Why should I have to deal with somebody from Venezuela who snuck in here illegally and committed a felony against a family member?
I'm not denying that if they are here illegally, they are subject to deportation, but I'm trying to build up my view to try to have a conversation that goes beyond the talking points on this. So if we start
that's
from
not
the
a talking point. That's
that we-
actual crimes. We just asked Laken Riley's family down in Georgia.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
I guess it doesn't
correcting
really, if you
like
let me
you're
talk, it's fine.
I want you to talk, but you're casting an aspersion that I'm spewing out some sort of talking points to you, and I'm saying actual Americans are being killed. It's not a talking
digging
point.
more deeply here. We're not really digging more deeply.
So David just starts breaking down the actual economics here, like moderate inflation, 2 to 3%, is necessary for a stable economy because it encourages spending and growth. And here's the funny part. Donald Trump himself even claimed that 1% inflation was perfect and that inflation was non-existent under him, which is completely false. Inflation under Trump was never zero, and economists aim for 2%, not 1%. Instead of engaging with Pakman's actual points, Megyn Kelly just completely dodges it, shifting the conversation to immigration and crime instead. Pakman just sees right through it and calls it out, saying we're not digging more deeply here, and at this point it's obvious. She can't argue on the facts. She just changes the subject. It's a classic conservative debate move she does when the data isn't on your side. Just pivot to fear-mongering instead, which is exactly what she's doing.
So we have a situation
okay.
here where obviously we are completely understaffed when it comes to immigration judges and being able to adjudicate these asylum claims. We also have circumstances in people's home countries that we could be better working on at a fraction of what it costs to deal with the problem domestically, which no one ever wants to do. I actually think that one of the great tragedies on this issue is that both Democrats and Republicans, for different reasons, have been unable to get us closer to what we might call a more semi-permanent solution on some of the low-hanging fruit. I mean, even most Republicans I talk to acknowledge the individuals brought here undocumented when they were minors. We're not going to send them back. They need a path to normalization here, whether it's a permanent residency or citizenship. There's so many things everybody agrees on. And for different reasons, either because they don't want their political enemies to get the credit for it or because they want to save it for when they get elected as something to run on, we could deal with probably 80% of this. I think this might be crazy. I think Hogan and I could agree on 80% of this if we were in charge of this. And it's disgusting to me how both sides, to different degrees, end up getting in the way of permanent solutions for political reasons. Now, obviously, as someone on the left, I'm more partial to the view of immigration that I think is more on my side than Hogan's. But that being said, I don't see any progress on this issue because everybody wants to keep reserve and use it to their advantage in a way that goes beyond other issues. And
Let me ask you about that, Hogan. Let me ask you about that because Trump, as you well know, his biggest critic on immigration is Ann Coulter, who is a dyed-in-the-wool conservative. And she's as angry as anybody about the fact that, as Dave just said, the wall was not built. Now, Trump had constructed some wall, but it was not completed the way Trump promised. And to Dave's point, Trump had control of Congress and the White House. The Republicans had control of Congress and the White House for his first 2 years of his presidency. He actually could have pushed massive reform through on immigration and did not do it.
You know what else isn't getting done? You hitting that like and subscribe button. So you should go do it right now. It really helps the channel a lot. Anyways, David starts calling out the real issue here. Immigration reform stalls because both parties use it as a political tool instead of fixing it. He even says that he and Hogan could probably agree on 80% of a real solution, proving it's not just about policy, it's about keeping the issue alive for political gain. And you know what's the irony of this all? Coulter completely turned on Trump, calling him a liar over the wall. This is why immigration never gets fixed. The conversation always gets derailed into partisan nonsense.
Yeah, with Paul Ryan as speaker? I don't think so. I mean, some of the biggest fights we had internally at the White House were with Republicans who didn't want to change the system, who didn't want to build the wall. Remember, we had to use military money to do it. Nancy Pelosi stood up many times and pounded her fist in those meetings or walked out and said, I'm not giving a single dime to this border wall, and then went on to sign multiple budgets that had border wall funding in it. So Dave's right. The whole thing's a political sham and theater for the most part. I would argue more on the left than the right. But even still, the solution here has to do with preventing people from coming into this country illegally. Yes. We already let in more than a million people a year legally. So how many should we let in, I guess, is the real question here. And as far as what you pointed out at the beginning, Megyn, think of it this way. Every rape, every murder, every burglary, every assault, every DUI committed by an illegal alien is 100% preventable, because they should not be here in the first place. And while our citizens may commit crime at a higher rate than legal or illegal immigrants, we got our own problems. Why would we import more? And now with people flying in from other nations, the Chinese nationals spiking from a few hundred in the first couple of years of Joe Biden, now 35,000, I think, already in this year. We're not even halfway through the year. That shows you we are in line for some serious problems that we're going to have to face and address in the future. And it's going to be a difficult task if Donald Trump were to win re-election to fix all of this, because we're in such a hole now. The American people hate where we are with immigration. We're going to have to
fix it. That's why Joe Biden's doing something. That's clearly why. I mean, he's feeling the political pressure. Yeah. But just as an FYI,
I know you probably
in 2018
want to move on, Megyn,
under Trump, we had 396,000 illegal migrants come in. That's not including the gotaways, the ones who weren't caught.
Yep.
But we had just about 400,000 come in. 2023 under Joe Biden, add 2 million to that. 2.4 million. It is not the same. It is nowhere near the same. We are at true crisis levels, as defined by not Megyn Kelly, but the Obama administration.
Right.
This is a crisis that needs something done about it. What Joe Biden's done here is teaspoons in the ocean.
And wrapping this up, this debate was just really another example of how conservatives turn immigration into fear-mongering instead of real solutions. Hogan Gidley admits Republicans had control and just failed to fix immigration, yet still pivots to blaming Democrats. Megyn Kelly pushes the crisis narrative, throwing out numbers while ignoring bigger policy failures. And of course, the usual scare tactics show up here, where Gidley points undocumented immigrants as a unique threat somehow, despite crime existing in every group. It's just another distraction from real reform. And at the end of the day, Pakman just exposes the whole conversation as a political theater. They don't want real solutions, they just want a talking point. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below.